Imagine this. You are a teacher who has just been hired by a private school. On your very first day, you are handed a schedule showing the class you will be teaching. However, this class is notorious for being filled with extremely troublesome students. Despite the challenges, you continue teaching them for several months and eventually become familiar with all of them. One day, while chatting with a fellow teacher, you decide to tell her about the constant problems you face while teaching Class 4E. To your surprise, the teacher looks at you in confusion and says that there has never been a Class 4E at the school. In fact, that class was shut down many years ago. Since you're absolutely certain that the class exists and that you have been teaching those students regularly, you decide to verify it yourself. But when you arrive at the classroom, you discover something terrifying. The room is completely empty. There is not a single student inside. The classroom is old, dusty, and abandoned, with furniture scattered everywhere, as if nobody has used it for years. Now, if you were that teacher, would you continue working at that school, or would you run away and never look back? Let me know in the comments what you would do. Now, let's dive into this mysterious story. The story begins with a young woman named Jennifer arriving at her new workplace. She has been hired as a teacher, and today is her very first day on the job. Naturally, she feels a mixture of excitement and nervousness. As she arrives at the school grounds, heavy rain is pouring down. The entire campus feels strangely silent, almost as if there are no students there at all. Jennifer tries asking a few students for directions to the teacher's office, but every one of them ignores her completely as though they cannot even see her. After wandering around for quite some time, she finally encounters a student named Don, who is playing basketball by herself. Jennifer introduces herself as the new teacher. Don explains that it is lunchtime, which is why everyone seems occupied. He then kindly escorts her to the teacher's staff before leaving. Inside the office, Jennifer meets Mrs. Kong, the school's strict discipline teacher. While they are having a casual conversation, the principal, Mrs. Wang, suddenly enters the room. Without wasting any time, Mrs. Wang assigns Jennifer to teach an afternoon history class as a temporary substitute. The regular history teacher is currently on maternity leave and will be away for several months, so Jennifer will be taking over her classes. Jennifer happily accepts the position. She believes the opportunity will help distract her from the recent heartbreak of breaking up with her boyfriend. After confirming that she will officially begin teaching the following day, she leaves to prepare herself for the new role. The next afternoon, Jennifer returns to the school. To her surprise, the teacher's office is completely empty. However, she notices a note left on the desk by Mrs. Kong. The note informs her that she has been assigned to teach Class 4E. It also warns her that the students in that class are extremely unruly and advises her to be careful. Despite the warning, Jennifer is eager to teach and is not concerned about what kind of students she might encounter. A short while later, she heads upstairs to find classroom 4E. Strangely, she cannot locate it anywhere. Even more unsettling is the fact that there are still no students visible around the school, despite it no longer being lunchtime. Suddenly, she runs into Don again, the same student she met the previous day. Jennifer asks for help once more. As it turns out, Don is actually a student in Class 4E. Making it easy for her to find the classroom. He leads her there without hesitation. When they finally arrive, Jennifer is shocked by what she sees. The classroom looks more like a chaotic marketplace than a place of learning. Some students are fighting, others are scribbling on the blackboard, and several are hurling insults at one another. In short, there is absolutely no order. Nevertheless, Jennifer ignores the chaos. She introduces herself and begins talking about the importance of studying history. Unfortunately, nobody pays any attention to her. The students continue chatting among themselves as if she does not exist. Jennifer quickly realizes that Mrs. Kong was not exaggerating about the class's behavior. Determined to win their interest, she changes her approach. She promises that the next day she will bring historical movies so they can learn in a more entertaining way. Even then, no one seems interested in what she is saying. The only exception is Don, who shows at least a little cooperation. To make matters worse, some of the boys begin making disrespectful and insulting remarks toward her. Despite everything, Jennifer remains calm and continues teaching her lesson. That evening, while walking through a crowded marketplace, Jennifer notices something disturbing. Several of her students appear to be involved in prostitution. Even worse, they have brought Don with them, and she seems frightened and reluctant to participate. Jennifer immediately rushes over and scolds the students in front of their customers, causing them to scatter and run away. However, she manages to stop one of them, a girl named Carol, and gives her a stern warning about her behavior. To Jennifer's surprise, Carol shows no fear whatsoever. Instead, she responds aggressively. telling her teacher to mind her own business before turning around and walking away. As Jennifer was about to reach home, she discovered that her ex-boyfriend Chung had been waiting for her. Chung begged her to give him another chance, but Jennifer firmly replied that she had already given him countless opportunities over the past 3 years to fix their relationship, yet he had never changed. Even so, Chung refused to give up. He went as far as kneeling in front of her in the middle of the street, desperately pleading for forgiveness, leaving nearby onlookers staring in disbelief. Fortunately, Jennifer's father arrived just in time and pulled his daughter away from Chung. Before leaving, he warned Chung that if he ever tried to approach Jennifer again, he would call the police. Once they got home, Jennifer told her mother, Jen, everything that had happened and could not hold back her tears. It became clear that during their relationship, Chung had been a heavy drinker and had physically abused Jennifer on numerous occasions. The abuse had continued for years, which was ultimately the reason she had ended the relationship. Jen comforted her daughter and encouraged her to leave the past behind and start a new chapter in her life. She reminded Jennifer that her new teaching job was the perfect opportunity to do so. A few moments later, Jennifer's father entered the room and firmly told her never to show Chung any sympathy if he tried to come back into her life again. The following day at school, Jennifer once again attempted to bring order to her class, but her efforts were unsuccessful. She also became concerned when she noticed that Don Don was absent. After class, Jennifer approached Carol and asked if she knew where Don Don was. Before Carol could answer, several of her friends stepped in and threatened Jennifer, warning her not to ask any questions. They told her to forget everything that had happened the previous night and stop interfering in matters that did not concern her. A short time later, Jennifer spotted Don Don entering the girls' restroom and decided to follow her. However, when she stepped inside, she was shocked to discover that every single stall was empty. It was as if the girl had vanished into thin air. Confused, Jennifer turned to leave, only to find that the restroom door had suddenly locked itself. Panic immediately set in. She began shouting for help, but no one responded. Then something terrifying happened. The doors started opening and closing by themselves. Water began pouring from the faucets without warning. Moments later, a metal fan blade broke loose and flew through the air, shattering every mirror in the restroom and narrowly missing Jennifer. Frozen with fear, she watched as blood began dripping from the ceiling. Within the spreading blood, a strange human-shaped shadow slowly emerged. Hours passed, and Jennifer still had not returned home. Growing worried, her father contacted the police. Using her phone's location, they discovered that she was still at the school. Jennifer's father and the police searched every corner of the building until they finally found her curled up in the corner of the restroom, trembling with fear. When they switched on the lights, Jennifer was stunned to see that everything looked completely normal. There was no blood, no flying objects, no shadow, nothing. The realization only made her panic even more, and she insisted on returning home immediately. The next morning, as Jennifer rested in her bedroom, her parents became convinced that she was suffering from severe emotional stress. They advised her to take a break from work for a while. However, only a few minutes later, Jennifer received a phone call from Mrs. Kong, who asked her to return to school the next day, claiming there was no other teacher available to handle her students. Jennifer hesitated, but since she had little else to do, she eventually agreed. When she arrived at school, she spent some time chatting with Mrs. Kong. During their conversation, Jennifer asked why the students of Class 4E were so unruly. The moment Mrs. Kong heard those words, her expression suddenly changed, as though she had just remembered something horrifying. She then told Jennifer that there was no class called 4E at the school, and that she had actually been assigned to teach a completely different class. Jennifer refused to believe her. After all, she had been teaching those students every day for months, and knew each of them personally. Determined to prove her point, she led Mrs. Kong to the classroom. But the moment they arrived, Jennifer was left speechless. The room was old, neglected, and covered in dust. It looked nothing like a classroom. Instead, it resembled a forgotten storage room filled with abandoned furniture and miscellaneous junk. The sight terrified her. At that very moment, the principal, Mrs. Wang, arrived and finally revealed the truth. She explained that 20 years earlier, Class 4E had indeed existed and had been filled with students. Among them was one particular student who was relentlessly bullied by her classmates every single day. The harassment became so severe that it eventually led to a tragedy that would haunt the school for decades to come. After enduring years of relentless bullying, one day the student finally snapped. She arrived at the classroom carrying a container of gasoline and set the room on fire. The blaze quickly spread throughout the classroom, killing 14 students. Among the victims were 2 teachers who desperately tried to save the students but were unable to do so. The tragedy brought immense shame and negative publicity to the school. As a result, Class 4E was permanently abolished and was never reopened again. After hearing the story, Jennifer was left speechless. She could not understand how she had been able to see, talk to, and teach students who had died many years ago. To help her move on, Mrs. Wang transferred her to a new class, Class 2A, which was known as the most well-behaved class in the school. Jennifer also learned that the class was taught only in the morning, so she gladly accepted the assignment. On her way home, she once again ran into Chung. As usual, he begged her to give him another chance, but Jennifer ignored him. Suddenly, she noticed Don Don standing nearby with bruises and injuries covering her face. Before Jennifer could ask what had happened, Don Don warned her never to return to the school again. The moment she finished speaking, she ran away and vanished. When Jennifer arrived home, she found her parents, along with several church members, praying for her. The following day, despite Don Don's warning, Jennifer decided to return to school. As soon as she entered her new classroom, 2A, she was horrified by what she saw. The students sitting inside were the exact same students she had been teaching in the non-existent Class 4E. Fear immediately overwhelmed her. She turned and tried to run, but several students blocked her path and forced her to stay and teach. Jennifer tried convincing herself that everything was simply a product of her imagination. Gathering her courage, she walked to the front of the room and began writing on the board. Then, the nightmare began. Several students suddenly transformed into terrifying spirits right before her eyes. One student's tongue split down the middle and stretched unnaturally toward her. Others began floating in the air, slowly moving closer and closer. Jennifer spun around in panic. Instantly, everything returned to normal. The students were sitting quietly as if nothing had happened. Then she noticed Don Don secretly signaling for her to leave immediately. Without wasting a second, Jennifer rushed to the door and sprinted out of the school as fast as she could. That evening, before reaching home, she encountered Don Don again. Don Don pleaded with her never to return to the school. When Jennifer demanded to know why, Don Don gave a chilling answer. "Because they all want to kill you." After saying those words, she disappeared. Jennifer continued walking, but only a short distance later she found Chung waiting for her once again. She tried to ignore him, but Chung stopped her and showed her a video he had recorded only minutes earlier. In the footage, Jennifer appeared to be talking to herself. No one else was visible. Jennifer immediately remembered that she had been speaking with Don Don at that exact moment. That was when the horrifying truth finally sank in. Don Don was not a normal human being. She was a ghost. Terrified, Jennifer could barely speak. Seeing her condition, Chung decided to take her to an exorcist. After listening to everything she had experienced, the exorcist told Jennifer that the school was filled with restless spirits and dark supernatural forces. He then handed her a mystical knife and instructed her to use it against the ghosts if they ever tried to attack her. Jennifer returned home carrying the knife. However, when she arrived that night, her parents were nowhere to be found. At that moment, the house phone began ringing. Jennifer answered it and heard the voice of one of the students from the ghostly Class 4E. In a strange, distorted voice, the student told her that there was nowhere she could hide and that they would eventually find her. Terrified, Jennifer quickly hung up. A few moments later, her cell phone started ringing. When she answered, the same ghostly voice told her that she had no choice but to obey whatever they demanded. Suddenly, the lights began flickering on and off. Strange noises echoed throughout the house. Then horrifying creatures started appearing on her phone screen. Panicking, Jennifer pulled out what she believed to be the magical knife and stabbed her phone. Instantly, everything became silent. The lights stabilized, the noises stopped, and the terrifying visions disappeared. The next morning, because her phone had been destroyed, Jennifer received a call on a neighbor's phone. It was her mother. Jennifer's mother explained that she had gone to the school after receiving instructions that supposedly came from Jennifer. She also revealed that she was currently with 2 students from Class 4E. One of them was Carol. A moment later, Carol took the phone. In a cold voice, she told Jennifer to come to the school immediately if she wanted to save her mother. Without hesitation, Jennifer rushed to the school. When she arrived, she found the students in their true horrifying forms. They had dragged her mother to the edge of an upper floor window and were preparing to throw her to her death. Then Carol asked Jennifer a chilling question. "Do you want to save your mother or do you want to save yourself?" Without hesitation, Jennifer answered, "Both." She immediately pulled out the magical knife. The blade erupted with a brilliant light powerful enough to overwhelm the spirits. But before she could rescue her mother, one of the ghosts shoved her. Jennifer's mother fell from the window. Seeing this filled Jennifer with overwhelming rage. With a scream, she charged forward and began attacking the spirits one by one with the enchanted knife, determined to end the nightmare once and for all. One of the students, who appeared completely normal, begged Jennifer not to kill him. However, overcome by fear and confusion, Jennifer stabbed him as well. A short time later, the police arrived at the scene and arrested her. By this point, Jennifer seemed completely detached from reality, as if she had lost her mind. Not long afterward, her parents arrived at the school. It was then that the shocking truth began to emerge. Her mother was alive. She had never gone to the school that day. Jennifer stood frozen in disbelief. The police chief informed her that she had brutally murdered 14 students from Class 4E. At that moment, a man arrived and introduced himself as the school's actual principal. Jennifer immediately insisted that he was lying. According to her, the principal was Mrs. Wang, the woman who had hired her a week earlier and who had told her the story about the fire that occurred 20 years ago. However, the principal revealed the truth to both Jennifer and the police. He explained that 20 years earlier, a devastating fire had indeed occurred at the school, killing several students and teachers. Because the tragedy had terrified the community, the school eventually removed and hid most of the memorial photographs connected to the victims. He then brought out the old photographs. The moment Jennifer saw them, she was completely stunned. The pictures showed the students of Class 4E along with the 2 teachers who had died in the fire, and those teachers were none other than Mrs. Wang and Mrs. Kong. Both of them had been dead for 20 years. The horrifying revelations did not end there. Jennifer discovered that she had never been carrying a magical knife at all. What she believed was a supernatural weapon was actually nothing more than an ordinary screwdriver. The screwdriver was the same tool that her ex-boyfriend Chung had used to abuse and terrorize her during one of their violent encounters shortly before they separated. This revelation led to an even darker realization. Jennifer had never actually met Chung again after that incident. The Chung she had been speaking with throughout the story was not real. She had been talking to his ghost all along. After hearing the full truth, Jennifer's mind finally shattered. Unable to process everything that had happened, she burst into uncontrollable laughter, sounding like someone who had completely lost touch with reality. The police had no choice but to take her into custody. As Jennifer sat in the back of the police car, she stared silently through the window. Then she saw something that made her heart stop. Standing beside the road was Don Don, casually playing basketball just as she always had. Don Don looked exactly the same as before. Jennifer could only stare in silence. Whether Don Don was truly a ghost or merely another hallucination, she could not tell. But one thing was certain. She never wanted to return to that school again. And so the terrifying mystery comes to an end.